welcome back to Happy Apple Core Homestead. Today we are going to do pickled jalapenos. We will be processing them so that they are shelf stable, and this is a tested recipe. You're going to need 2 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of canning salt. Definitely use the canning salt and not your table salt. Table salt can make it a little bit cloudy. 2 tablespoons of honey. You can substitute the honey for sugar if you like. And 3 cups of white vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar as a substitute, but it does taste different. I have done it both ways and I prefer the white vinegar, but it's really just kind of whatever you like. And then you're gonna need about 1 pound of jalapenos. This is 1 pound, 3 ounces, but it's not gonna matter. There's gonna be plenty of cooking liquid, even if you're a little bit over or under the 1 pound. You're gonna need a cutting board and a knife and a medium saucepan. I really recommend that you also use gloves because if you have sensitive skin, that once you cut into the jalapenos, it can burn your skin, and if you accidentally rub your eyes or something, you'll be very uncomfortable. You are also going to need some jars. We're gonna use 1/2 pint jars today. I've got 6 of them out. Not sure if they'll be full or what, but there's 6 of them out. I have a canner. I'm using my pressure canner, but we're gonna water bath today. So there's a little rack at the bottom of the pot, and we're just gonna use it as a water bath canner, and you can too if you want to. We also have clean lids and rings. We've got a bubble popper, a funnel, and a wet paper towel. I think that's basically everything that you need to do a batch of your own pickled jalapenos. So let's just jump right in. Once we have our gloves on, we want to trim up the jalapenos. So cut the stem end off and a tiny bit of the bottom end. You don't have to, I just do for uniformity. And then slice them. How big you slice them is really completely up to you. Mine's about 1/2 inch, and some are bigger. I need another bowl. Let me grab another bowl. You're gonna want a bowl to put your sliced jalapenos in, and I do not take the seeds out. I leave the seeds in. It's completely up to you if you want to de-seed them. It's not going to change the flavor if you take them out or leave them in. All right, I got a bowl. We're going to go ahead and just get these all sliced up. And see, I left the end on in that one. It's totally fine to leave the end on. Once I get all of these cut up, we'll move on to the next step. All the jalapenos have been cut, and I did keep the bottoms. I don't know why I was like showing you to like cut the bottoms off and get rid of them. That's crazy town. Anyway, keep the bottoms of your jalapenos, just cut the stems off, slice them up, and then you're good to go. Those are just gonna sit here and chill out in the bowl while we get the cooking liquid started. So put in 2 cups of water and 3 cups of vinegar. So close. I have another one though, don't worry. It was like just over 2.5 cups. But always keep extras. Alrighty, 3 cups of vinegar in. Let me tidy up and I'll be right back. Next, we want 2 tablespoons of canning salt. And 2 tablespoons of honey. I might be a little liberal with this, but the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. let's head on over to the stove. We're gonna give this a good stir and get it heated up. This pot is on a medium-low heat, and we just want to bring it up to a boil. So as soon as it boils, go ahead and turn it off. Probably you're going to want to use medium heat, but this burner is kind of got a mind of its own, and it gets really, really hot. So that's why mine is a little bit lower. Anyway, I'm going to keep an eye on this, and as soon as it boils, we're going to take it off the heat. But while we're waiting for that, let's work on getting these jars filled. Got our funnel here and our jalapenos, and we're just going to pop these in here. You can pack yours tightly if you want to. I do not pack mine tightly because it's kind of has to do with the portions that we like for our meals. But you'll notice at the end of this video when we're done that my jalapenos float all the way up to the top, and it looks like there's hardly any in there, but they are. They're just kind of hiding under the ring. As you can see, this jar is full, and they don't shrink or anything when they're processed. Okay, that's too many. I like to fill mine to just about right here with the jalapenos, and I don't pack them in. I just leave them loose like that. And I'll prove it to you. See, the jar is full, but when we're done, they'll be like all floating up high. It's weird, but that's just what they always do for me. We're gonna get all of these jars filled up, and by the time we're done, probably the cooking liquid will be ready to pour onto the jalapenos. We got 5.5 jars, and it's okay if your jars aren't full as long as you put the brine all the way up to what the recipe says. So you see these little rings here? This is 1 inch, this is 1/2 inch, and all the way up there, practically at the tippy top, is 1/4 inch. So we're gonna fill these pretty full. The brine is ready to go. We'll just grab our jar and our funnel, and we're gonna fill each jar to 1/4 inch from the top. Practically all the way full. And you can see how they're floating. I know that this was one of the little jars, but oh my gosh, they float all the way to the top. Then you'll want to take your wet paper towel and just clean the rim. Oh, well, technically you should do your bubble popping. Does it sound like I don't know what I'm doing? It's kind of hard to bubble pop these. We'll do one more jar together in the right order. Clean again. Over there is my canner, and it already has nice hot water in it. So these jars are going to be popped right in there once they get full. And since I did such a bad job of explaining the process to you, we'll do one more jar together. Funnel in. And the brine up to 1/4 inch from the top. A little bit more. All right, that looks good. Now we will take this bubble popper and start from the outside edge and go around and press towards the center. And get some of those bubbles out of the inside of the jalapeno slices. And you can see how they float right up to the top. Now we'll clean our rim. And grab a lid, pop that right on. And put the ring on. And just finger tight, right? So don't reef it down as strong as you can. Finger tight is perfect. And into the canner it goes. Here are the jars in the canner, and this is a water bath, so you want to make sure that the water covers the tops of the jars by 1 to 2 inches. I'll stick my finger in there, it goes up to right about here, so that's perfect amount. This water is hot, the jars are hot, and so it's okay to turn your canner up reasonably high. If you're doing a batch of canning and everything's like lukewarm or cold, please heat your canner up slowly. That will help prevent things like siphoning, thermal shock, and all of that bad stuff. But since we're all hot, we're good to go. I'm going to crank this up to a medium. I know that sounds not that high, but for this burner, it is. It is still going to take a while for this to get to a full rolling boil. We cannot start our 15-minute timer until it gets to a full rolling boil, and when it does, I will show you. Okay, that is a full rolling boil. I did want to mention I did set the lid on top of this while it was heating up. Keeps the steam in, makes it boil a little bit faster. And I'm going to put the lid back on to make sure we keep a full rolling boil. So I'm not tightening this down because if you're using your pressure canner as a water bath, it will build up steam and the little nipple will pop up, and you don't want that. So set your timer for 15 minutes and I will see you back after that. The timer has gone off, and now we're gonna take this pot off of the heat. So very carefully lift it up. Move it on over. If you have a glass top stove like me, make sure you don't scrape it. And then we are going to remove the lid. For some canning items like apple pie filling, for example, I recommend leaving the lid on to reduce siphoning. But for the jalapenos, you can go ahead and take the lid off right away and set your timer for 5 minutes. The timer's gone off, and now it's time to take the jars out of the canner. Do not tip them. You can see that they're very floaty, and just set them on a towel. That helps prevent thermal shock, especially if you have tile or granite countertops. Any water that's on the top of the jars will evaporate on its own. So you see what I mean? This was a full jar, and it looks like it's floating crazy, but it's just actually up here to the very, very tippy top. There's still just as many jalapenos in there as there were before. Perfect amount for a meal. Well, for my household anyway. You can do this recipe in pints if you'd like a little bit more. All right, now these are just going to sit here and rest for 24 hours or so. 12 hours is fine. These half pints tend to cool off pretty quick, so I'll see you guys in the morning. It has been 24 hours and all of the jars are nice and cooled off. Now it's time for the finishing touches. We want to make sure that the jars are sealed. So first you'll take your rings off. And then you can tap them. They're all sealed. You can also pick them up by the lid just to make double sure. And it's okay that they're floating. If you remember, I did not pack these in super, super tight, so it's perfectly normal for them to float a little bit. but the headspace is perfect. Yeah, they look really good and they're gonna be really yummy. Some people say you should wait, a month or so before you open them and eat them. Just kind of helps mellow out the flavor a little bit, but they're perfectly safe and fine to eat right away if you want to. Next, you're gonna want to take a wet paper towel or cloth and just clean all the way around the rings, like the little rings of the jar. Get those nice and clean. And lastly, you're going to want to label them. I like to also put my date on there so I know how long they've been in the cabinet. That way I can kind of rotate out. If I have some from last year, I can use those first. I use these dissolvable labels. They wash right off, and I like that quite a bit. And stick it on just like that, and it's ready to go in your pantry. And that is it for how to make your own pickled jalapenos. Make sure you stay tuned to my channel. I have some really fun stuff coming up for the holidays. It's December right now, and even though we're not in the garden, we will be soon. But between now and then, we have some other fun things to do together. If you'd like to support me, please hop down to the description box. My Etsy shop has 25% off until probably like the middle of December, and I do these sales like multiple times during the year. So check out the Etsy shop, get some of my herbals, and I will be seeing you next time. Bye!